speed. It is one of the most valuable weapons brought to bear on a very difficult air-to-ground mission. It is a mission that military pilots consider as dangerous as combat itself, and experience-hardened civilian pilots fly with exacting precision and control. Demanding, difficult, and overwhelmingly effective. This is the incredible story of the aerial firebombing mission. This is the challenge of air attack. It has been said that fire is both man's humble servant and most unforgiving master. It is a friend one day and a killer the next. In some quarters, it is almost reverently called the animal, a creature that when loosed knows no controls, a serpent able to race across acres of land with the speed of wind itself. Wildfires are a special breed unto themselves. Feasting on an abundance of dried brush and timber, they often grow in strength powerful enough to create their own weather systems, stirring to life a phenomenon inside their clouds that is nothing short of a hellish inferno. Claiming turf with ever-darkening skies, a fire system becomes an erratic, violent witch's brew of cross-currents, updrafts, and flames. Fires are difficult to beat, and they create a particularly inhospitable environment for aviators. But pilots and ground crews alike know that the battle would be quickly lost without air support. Each pass over the flames is risky. The tremendous volume of heat alone can overwhelm a mission. And yet, pilots return season after season, knowing full well that although risky, their contribution could be the deciding factor. It is nothing short of a race, those first minutes after a fire is called in. Initial air attack teams will sweep into motion in a matter of minutes. When the roads are bad or the incident is remote, the C-23 Sherpa is often called to the scene. The Sherpa's cargo is precious indeed, smoke jumpers, men and women trained to jump just 1,500 feet above the ground, fly a ram air chute towards the forested terrain, and on landing, attack the fire. Flying the Sherpa, often through valleys and into tight basins, is no small piloting feat. With a load of 8 to 12 jumpers and 500 pounds of cargo, every bit of their twin 1,180 horsepower turbine engines are brought online. Furthermore, the cockpit crew must stay on top of the high-stress workload that goes along with close air support, flying the aircraft, communicating with the crew and back, targeting the drop zone, and panning the all-too-close terrain for unexpected outcroppings. Smoke jumpers can be self-sustaining for up to 48 hours. After their job is done, they can be airlifted out or returned to their base by ground. Jumpers go in pairs and often bring enough to bear on a fire to halt it in its tracks. Joining the race to get to the fire quickly is the helicopter. In many ways, it is the ideal aerial attack asset, able to get in and out of incredibly tight spots, yet agile, accurate, and powerful enough to bring enormous loads to bear on a fire. These Bell Hueys carry 800 gallons or more with each drop. While they look insignificant against the backdrop of a towering incident, a well-placed drop on the head of a fire can be as effective as a dozen men on the ground. The length of the cabling helps get the bucket closer to the fire, which improves the accuracy of the drop. Helicopters can do just about anything a firefighter would want. Base forward near the fire line, dip down and reload from available water supplies, hover, move left or right, up or down, and get to the incident scene at 120 knots. Furthermore, helicopters can be fitted with over a dozen different sized buckets and carry a load every bit as heavy as their fixed-wing counterparts. Helicopters are an extraordinary firefighting asset. Technologically, innovations have only enhanced their utility. This Aerospeciale is filled with the latest, a conformal belly tank fitted with suction pumps and a snorkel probe that drops into available sources of water. Alert to power lines and irregular terrain, the pilot will upload to the 360-gallon tank in a matter of seconds. It is a delicate maneuver to hold the helo in hover. On completion, it is a time-sensitive dash to the fire. The helicopter is ideally suited to respond quickly to spot fires. Often started by lightning bolts, incident commanders like to douse spot fires quickly before they spread. One particularly effective technique against a spot fire is to salvo the helicopter's entire load. Whether mixed with foam, which holds the retardant in place, or just water, the weight of the load helps it crash through the limbs of a tree, penetrate to the base of the fire. On occasion, ground firefighters must use themselves to accurately spot the drop. Another unusual feature of the helicopter is the capability, with a little stick control, to toss their drops. A jog sideways lets the bucket swing enough to throw retardant under the branches of a tree, or sideways against a hill, without pulling the helo over with it. Many of the helitankers that have crashed did so because of tail rotor mishaps. The considerable length behind the pilot often creates a logistics dilemma. This aerospatiale maneuvers carefully over the portable tanks, alert to snags on trees, the ground, and power cables. Surprisingly few helicopters crash because of main rotor strikes. Pilots like to find an accessible stream or pond near their fire. Long turnarounds are frustrating. A nearby body of water has the helicopter back over the fire in minutes. Buckets, either collapsible or rigid, refill automatically. As simple as it looks, dipping is fraught with hazards. In the thin air of a hot day, it is remarkably easy to overwhelm lift with the weight of a full bucket. When that happens, the helo will settle, threatening a rotor strike and a crash. Helicopters begin to flounder in almost imperceptible increments. Quick thinking by this aerospatiale pilot averted a certain crash. Losing lift, the load is dumped. Nonetheless, another problem looms: fast rising terrain. The pilot pulls up dramatically. Needless to say, great care is taken when transitioning the helicopter from an empty bucket to a full one. Forward motion and higher shaft speeds are necessary to generate sufficient lift. This Sikorsky S-58T demonstrates how to move out of the hover and into flight safely but quickly. The pilot gradually puts the load onto the rotor blades, eases away from the pond of water, tracks forward over the ground to build airspeed, then initiates a shallow climb. S-64 is an unusual beast. Designed to wrap around its cargo, firefighters and pilots alike forgive it its ungainly appearance for good reason. It can lift 2,000 gallons, 16,000 pounds of retardant in one load. The long bucket line is necessary to prevent the Sky Crane's massive rotors from overly fanning the fire with its downwash. Because of the line, S-64 pilots suffer some deterioration in airspeed and must be particularly alert to potential snags. Uploading water through suction is also more complicated than it seems. One S-64 suffered electrical failures that progressively brought the helicopter down. The snorkel shutdown controls failed, followed by an unexplained inability to dump the load. Staggering under the increasing weight, the sky crane crashed into the water below. When matching aircraft to incident, maneuverability and load capacity lie at the heart of a commander's decision. Darting in and about a wildfire with a respectable 500-gallon load is this turbine-powered M18 Dromedary. The Dromedary is an excellent role model for single-engine air tankers. It is agile, it targets its drops with unparalleled accuracy, and it gets in and out of corners big tankers wouldn't think of approaching. Undaunted by the dead weight of its load, the Dromedary lays down its drops almost in spite of the terrain. And like the tankers, seat aircraft can also regulate the type, width, and density of their drop. Combined with their precision, this level of tactical flexibility enables seat pilots to operate in close proximity to ground crews. The maneuverability of the seat aircraft is one of its key assets. Seat will typically drop from less than 100 feet above the fire. They can fly uphill drops, which are almost never flown by the large tankers, and are less likely to lose their loads due to crosswind drifting or blowback from the convection heat of the fire. These are the air tankers. They are big, tough-minded metal airplanes with a couple thousand horsepower per round engine. Their specialty is high lift and precision drop, and they don't expect it to be easy. The tanker base is an operation unto its own. Ground crews maintain the aircraft, refuel it, and pump new retardant into its tanks. The retardant is a slurry of chemicals and water designed to stick to the ground and slow the burn of a wildfire. It is dyed red so it can be seen during the dump. Great care is taken not to overload the aircraft. At altitude on a hot day, the tankers must cut back on their loads if they are to even get off the ground. Because of the relatively small requirement for heavy tankers, not one single-purpose built aerial tanker has been made by the U.S. aerospace industry. Instead, the tanker fleet is a patchwork quilt of surplus military and durable but aging civilian transport and cargo planes. The extremely heavy 2,000 and 3,000 gallon loads these tankers carry put enormous stress on both engine and airframe. Indeed, structural failures are the most common causes for tanker crashes. Flying a tanker is not for the faint of heart. Long takeoff rolls leave the question of flight unanswered until the very last moment. A painstakingly slow climb to altitude with one eye on the engine exhaust temperatures exacts its toll. Most tanker pilots, though, have 4,000 hours of flight time before they enter the firefighting ranks and come to their job experienced in multi-engine aircraft. Mishaps hit pilots with little warning. This tanker floundered on takeoff. Fortunately, the pilot responded in seconds, dumping the load of retardant immediately. Then inputting stick controls to compensate for the sudden shifting of the plane's center of gravity, the pilot established a normal climb-out and returned safely to the tanker base. Not all aerial tankers come from the surplus yards. In fact, 3 remain on active duty: the C130, the OB-10 Bronco, and this aircraft, a plane well liked by her pilots, the Navy's P-3 Orion. Powered by 4 Allison 4,900 horsepower turboprops, the P-3 combines a lift capability of 3,000 gallons with a level of agility not found in other tankers. Another stalwart tanker is the PD-4Y Privateer, the Navy's version of the World War II bomber, the B-24. 4 Wright Cyclone 1,700 horsepower radial piston engines carry 2,400 gallons of retardant. Today's tanker fleet is built from a number of sturdy, if not aging, airframes. Douglas, true to its reputation for designing workhorses, has its name on 3: the 4-engine DC-4s, DC-6s, and DC-7s. The Douglas tankers can carry between 2,000 and 3,000 gallons apiece. Interestingly, the DC-7 proved the concept of aerial firefighting, demonstrated its potential as far back as 1953. Lockheed's P-2V Neptune is a remarkably agile tanker. Originally the backbone of the Navy's Cold War ocean patrol capability, today's Neptunes have 2,450-gallon conformal retardant tanks built into the bottom of the fuselage. A pair of 2,300 horsepower Wrights are occasionally augmented by a pair of underwing Westinghouse turbojets. Maneuvering a tanker can be both pain and pleasure. Fully loaded, flight performance can be poor, and at lower airspeeds, flight controls are often sluggish. Moreover, tankers throw inexperienced pilots an unusual curve. The change in CG following the retardant drop causes the nose of the tanker to pitch up. If not corrected, the aircraft can stall. Some pilots added compensating trim prior to the drop. Others put forward stick in immediately after. You can often see the pitch up from the ground as the retardant is released. Retardant may be put on the fire, but more commonly is placed around the edges of the fire, where it acts to break the advance or halt the spread of the fire completely. It is not unusual to trail retardant down a fire break, as this C-130 does. Most tankers fly a standard left-hand pattern into and out of the drop zone. This older C119 uses rudder to adjust its track over the ground. Tankers often fly several passes with one load, as does this boxcar. Built by Fairchild, the C119 saw service until the 1980s. It carried a 2,400-gallon load, but was plagued by safety issues and ultimately retired. Many of today's tankers are nearing the end of their useful, albeit extended lives. No clear choice for replacement tankers has emerged from the stocks of surplus military and commercial aircraft. Jets, while certainly more advanced, are largely ill-suited to air attack. Their engines are vulnerable to airborne fog damage and smoke ingestion. Further, unlike their piston and inline turbine brothers, jets lack the near instantaneous response to power changes, a weakness that could be fatal to an aircrew in a tight situation.
Just at the top of the ridge. Yes, I'd be push that button right at the top of the ridge, you bet. You got it.
One of the most effective air attack tankers is the Air Force's C-130. Originally produced in 1954 and still in production today, the C-130 has seen almost every imaginable flying duty one can think of. Marrying the extraordinary flight envelope of the Hercules to an aerial tanker mission came as no surprise to her fans.
Right behind me.
Left 100.
And you can feel the retardants. Here's a heading of about 315. Release right here just before the edge of the hill and draper right over the top. Okay.
Let's get on top of the other one, David. Stand by for a pushover.
Ready, drop.
MAF's units were a welcomed addition during the Malibu Canyon fires. The terrain, though, posed special problems. C-130 pilots needed to push over the tops of steep canyons, lay down a trail of retardant, then recover before the next ridgeline. MAFS is an acronym for Modular Airborne Firefighting System. Pressurized 3,000-gallon tanks are loaded into the C-130. Over the drop zone, the contents are released in one continuous trail drop. Two downward pointing nozzles extend out of the C-130's cargo ramp and direct the spray. This view is from the cargo bay. Like many military cargo pilots, C-130 crews train for low-level drops and are thus comfortable in the tanker mission. This is a decided asset to the incident commander. 3 National Guard and 1 Reserve unit fly the MAF's mission. Coordination of the air attack assets Indeed, managing the battle plan for the incident falls to two people, the ground-based incident commander and the air attack supervisor. Flying large right-hand turns above the incident, the air attack supervisor acts as both air traffic control and forward spotter. A wide variety of aircraft will be assigned to an incident. The air attack supervisor blends the air speeds, loads, and flight performance capabilities of the tankers into a smooth, no-delay attack operation. In this sequence, 3 different tankers make consecutive passes over the fire. Footage of air traffic coordination is rare. This unusual segment involves 1 tanker, 2 helicopters, and the camera crew. Notice how the helos are spotted in holding positions, for good reason. Air attack has vectored a tanker down the fire line for a trail drop. Since tanker crews often move from one state to the next, flying over unfamiliar terrain is a way of life. Lead aircraft are there to guide a tanker in, mark the drop, and show the way out. Two favorites are the T-28 Trojan, seen here in the foreground, and the OV-10 Bronco. Both are fast and offer good pilot visibility. Lead is also flown by any number of commercial twins. Irrespective of type, Lead will join up with an inbound tanker, fly their ground track, and then circle back to pick up another. This will go on from dawn to dusk. Aerial firefighters are driven by an overpowering sense of mission, to beat the fire, for sure, but to save precious acreage and to stop fires before they become killers. Their flights are not without risks. They know the violence and the price of flying into the furnace. But they know the limits, and they apply the disciplines of airmanship to ensure that they and their tankers will be back on the line to fly another day.
Ooh.